Dr. Jeff Myers, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's great to have you. First of all, what did your recent poll find about the way young Americans view Israel?
Well, we found that about half of young Americans think that Israel's campaign against Hamas in Gaza is unjust because Israel has greater military power and wealth, which gives a lot of insight into exactly why or how young people reason the way they do. We saw the polls back in November and December saying that they thought Hamas's military efforts in slaughtering 1,200 people and taking 250 captives were justified because of Palestinian grievances. And now we see that young adults are really doubling down on that. They're actually taking the Hamas line. A third of young adults in America say that Israel does not even have a right to exist.
And how does this compare to the way older generations view Israel?
It's almost the exact opposite. So if 70% of Americans generally support Israel, 70% of those in Gen Z generally do not support Israel. They are anti-Israel. So it is in one generation, the impact of the education system students have received was sort of a neo-Marxist perspective where everything in the world is very simple. It can be explained by the oppressor versus the oppressed. Our professors tell us who the oppressors are, so then we can figure out who the oppressed people are, and we can stand alongside of them no matter how vile their tactics.
Okay, now you've said of your polling that it shows, quote, when presented with facts, a substantial percentage of Gen Z voters change their minds about their anti-Israel stance. I want to get into this just a bit, but first, what facts are you referring to here?
Well, the facts about Israel's history, the history of the region, the facts about Hamas's history, the facts about the Palestinian refusal to ever form a state, the facts about Israel's commitment to rules of engagement that protect non-combatants more than any other army in history, those kind of facts.
So, Dr. Myers, some of these facts were presented in this poll.
That's an interesting way to do polling. We worked with the pollster Scott Rasmussen, who's very reputable, and we asked, can we present people with facts and see if it changes their minds? And he said, sure, let's try it. So we asked a question, do you believe that Israel's greater military power and wealth makes its cause unjust? And about half of young adults said yes. But then we asked this question, do you believe the fact that the top 600 Hamas leaders have all become millionaires and billionaires by skimming international aid designed for destitute Gazans makes their cause unjust? And within one question, the vast majority of them said yes, and those who had previously been anti-Israel were now cast into confusion and just said, well, I'm not sure any longer. So we need to break the narrative that everything in the world is super simple. It's just this simple narrative between the oppressors and the oppressed. Present facts to Gen Z, and they find that persuasive. Not all of them, of course, but if half of the ones who are anti-Israel change their minds with just the presentation of a fact, that gives us our responsibility. It's now up to us to make sure they get the facts.
Okay, and what percentage of Gen Z voters change their mind when presented with these facts?
Well, about 50% of them changed their minds. Well, I should say 50% of them either changed their minds or said, now I'm not sure. So then the number who said they weren't sure went up quite a bit. They didn't want to admit that Israel is good, but they had to grapple with the fact that Hamas is evil. And once people understand that Hamas is evil, they do not care about the Gazan people. They do not care if the Gazan people get slaughtered. They only have one aim, and that is the annihilation of the state of Israel. And ultimately, they want to do that through the killing of Jews. They've specifically in their documents referenced the verses in the Quran that speak to that.
All right, Dr. Jeff Myers, president of Summit Ministries, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Chris.